It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to my Substack to get the daily California report at randywangradio.substack.com. Let's get into today's California report for Tuesday, February 3rd. And the big story is that UTLA, the United Teachers of Los Angeles, has voted to authorize a potential strike. They say their teachers are not making enough money, which is exactly what they said 3 years ago when they successfully got a 22% raise.
Get that money!
But I guess inflation has got up 22% in the last 3 years. Oh, it hasn't?
We demand higher pay.
I don't know how the districts are supposed to afford this. You're seeing the same kind of fight go up in San Francisco, but every teacher says that they're broke, yet we're spending more and more money on education. Where all that money is going, who knows? Now, yesterday we talked about how LA Mayor Karen Bass held her State of the City address, but it was really odd because last year the State of the City address was in May, and part of what you do in the State of the City address is present your budget to the City Council. She did not do that. Apparently, she's going to have a second speech, and this was more about politics than about what are the goals for the city in 2026. Because, and this is interesting, Karen Bass invited a lot of dignitaries, and they invited the Clean LA with Me guy, which, again, I think makes her look bad. But Karen Bass invited members of the Metro Board, members of the LA City Council, Inglewood Mayor James Butts, because with all the hoopla about the World Cup, let's not forget that the games are actually going to be played at SoFi, which is not in the city of Los Angeles. But one notable person who was not invited to Karen Bass's State of the City was Lindsay Horvath of the LA County Board of Supervisors, who is widely rumored to be getting into the mayor's race.
Quite frankly.
And apparently, as far as we have seen, Lindsay Horvath has opened up a new Twitter account that says Lindsay for LA. It could be fake, but who would make that up? But this could have been Karen Bass trying to consolidate power because she sees Horvath as a potential challenge. Or at very least, with Horvath in the race, it would make it very possible that Karen Bass doesn't just win outright in June. But we'll see. It's not like Lindsay Horvath is going to be any better, but Karen Bass is a disaster. Speaking of disasters, that's a great segue. I should tell you someday about the worst segue of all time that I did on a podcast about 10 years ago. We know that the Palisades fire was a major disaster, but what was almost worse was how awful the insurance industry has been in the recovery. Well, Consumer Watchdog, who is the consumer group that tries to look out for what is going on with the insurance industry, considering that the insurance commissioner is nowhere to be found on the side of ratepayers and doesn't care about ratepayers.
Trailblazing is rarely comfortable, yo.
They investigated the insurance industry's response to the Palisades fire, and not only did they find a whole bunch of slow walking and changing your adjuster and all the other nonsense that you're not surprised by, but they also were using secret algorithms to drop as many people as possible. Could that be because they knew they were getting all these sweetheart deals from Ricardo Lara? Why, yes, it could. Now, in some positive school news, Long Beach Unified officially rolled out their cell phone ban, and the teachers are liking it. They're saying, hey, the kids are finally paying attention. I got to imagine the hardest part about being a teacher in today's day and age is constantly being the phone police. But I do know this. Kids are crafty, and kids will figure out something else. I remember being in high school when the kids in my class figured out how to put games on the TI-83 calculator. Like, they figured out how to put Mario on one of those things. And there was also this text adventure game called Go Pimping. That one was a lot of fun, too. Look, we were desperate to do anything but pay attention to class. Although, for me, I felt I was overqualified for everything in high school, but didn't want to go try out for the AP classes. So I just kind of did all my homework in class and then snuck my Game Boy out when I could. Here's an interesting one from NBC in LA. The San Bernardino City Council wants to put something on the ballot that would stop them from having an elected mayor. They want that position to be an appointed position. Why? They won't say. What's the point of this? Do they have a problem with the current mayor? They don't want to say. But also in this consolidation of power, they want to make sure that the members of that city council can serve for a longer term than they usually do. So there's something going on out there. I know it's the biggest city in San Bernardino County, but it's still not that big of a city. And your primary job in the city of San Bernardino is to make sure the raves are still coming through to the Orange Show. Now, in Catalina, and this is a story coming out of CBS LA, there has been an overrun of mule deer that originally were brought onto the island because someone wanted something to hunt. And what do you know? They overpopulated quite a bit. It's getting to the point where the California Conservancy is like, we need to have people hunt these things. There's too many of them. And Janice Hahn, whose district includes Catalina, says, no. We can't get rid of them. We need to just, save some of them. It's good for wildfire prevention because they eat all the bad brush. And the Conservancy says they also eat all the good brush. So we'll see what goes on down there. And another problem that is going to be facing a lot of people in the next decade in California is the challenges that we are seeing due to caregiver shortages. There's a lot of people getting older, and there's not a lot of people who want to do the work of taking care of those people. It doesn't pay very well, and while it can be rewarding and sometimes, I'm sure in other times it is just awful. If you have any friends that have any elderly parents that have special needs, I feel for them every single day, but I don't know what you need to do, how you need to, get more people into this industry without getting it to a point where people can make a better living at it, but then that increases the cost of everything. I don't know what the answer is for that. Oh, insurance should pay for it? Sure, but what does insurance actually pay for? Who knows? KTLA did an interview with Michael Gates, who you might know as the former Huntington Beach city attorney. He announced a few weeks ago he is challenging Rob Bonta for attorney general. So I have that interview up on the California Report. We'll see. It's a Republican, but Bonta is notably awful and notably pathetic and has a lot of ethical question marks around him with the whole connection to the Shang Tao scandal. So maybe Bonta is vulnerable. It's still kind of weird that he's not running for governor.
Absolutely.
And of course, there was that whole situation where Rob Bonta, who had nothing to do with the Shang Tao situation, nothing, paid $500,000 of campaign money to attorneys to assist in that investigation. It's a little weird. Wasn't a whole lot of news in the Bay Area today because everything's Super Bowl focused. But what was in the news was that more and more voters, this is true in California and also true in the rest of the country, 45% of U.S. voters are identifying themselves as independents because more and more people look at the Democrat Party and the Republican Party and say, I don't know where I fit in any of this. There's so much polarization. Every side is getting pulled to the ends, but there are a lot of people that are like, to use a phrase that I remember Chris Rock saying a million years ago. There are some issues that I'm conservative about. There are some issues that I'm liberal about. And I think that's true for a lot of people. I have never identified with the political party, and I don't think I ever will. I think there needs to be balance in the state of California, and I think one-party rule has been a mess. But for the most part, I look at the person, not the party. You can't judge every single politician in California because they have a D next to their name. Tracy Park has a D next to her name. She's pretty common sense. Matt Mahan has a D next to his name. The mayor of San Jose, he's pretty darn common sense. In Sacramento, I guess you could call this good news. You know that whole scandal involving Gavin Newsom's chief of staff, Dana Williamson, the one who was siphoning money out of Javier Becerra's campaign to pay for fancy purses and fancy Mexican vacations? Well, after the big indictment last year, they're going through the court proceedings. But as it always happens when you have these big cases, the suspects in the case, the defendants, all of a sudden get incredibly ill. And apparently, Dana's had some rough years to the point where she needed a liver transplant. Now, I don't want to insinuate anything. I'm sure there are totally legitimate reasons why people get liver transplants. Maybe, but it's pushing her court dates back quite a bit. Now, we've been talking a lot about school budgets and school strikes in San Francisco, in Los Angeles. Well, this is the side effect of when you decide to give the union everything they want, is at some point you become underwater. Because enrollment is outside of LAUSD. Enrollment is down in almost every major school district in the state, including Sac City Unified, who are now at a point where they have a $50 million budget crisis, and they don't want to close schools, and they don't want to have those hard conversations, so they're going to need an emergency loan from the state, and then they're going to be put into a state receivership, much like Oakland Unified has been in for a very long time, and then they got out of receivership, and then they went right back into receivership. What's interesting when you look at Sacramento area is the cities that they cover. Stockton gets a lot of coverage because Stockton has a weird city council and a weird mayor. And there's been this fight going on in Stockton for quite a while where the vice mayor is accusing the mayor of corruption and the mayor is accusing the vice mayor of corruption. So here's the latest twist on this from ABC 10. The vice mayor of Stockton says that the mayor mishandled a whole bunch of funds for some DEI program and a DEI hire that was supposed to oversee all the DEI programs. The mayor says, no. It's the vice mayor that's crooked because he used city money for a comedy show. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if you remember, late last year, there was this horrific story of the explosion in Esparto of the fireworks warehouse. Well, the fire marshals have finally finished their investigation. And while they won't say what happened, they do say it involves illegal activity. And I'm not surprised. We have seen quite a few circumstances where a place that's supposed to have legal fireworks usually has illegal fireworks. We saw that at a warehouse in the city of Commerce, but I don't know how that explosion started, but it was devastating. 7 people lost their lives. Whole bunch of businesses burned down. I might sound like a crank about this, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think I'm done with fireworks. I don't care for them anymore. Sure, I've had some experiences where I've looked up at the sky, whether it was when I was a kid at Disneyland or as a drugged out adult at a rave. Fireworks are so cool, but we can do better. The drone shows are kind of fun. I'm sure we could figure out music that can be synced to it. Do we really still need to go after all these things that go boom and freak out little dogs and start fires? I can't stand fireworks. And it's one of the reasons why I make sure I'm not in the city of Los Angeles on the 4th of July. Because every 4th of July, the San Fernando Valley turns into a war zone. Because, of course, it's almost impossible to enforce everything going on there. Speaking, I mentioned theme parks, like seeing the fireworks at Disneyland. One of the things that I think I grew out of almost immediately was going to water parks. I'm sure some people like them. I'm a little iffy on how fun that is. The sunburn that you're going to get from standing in line forever and ever and ever for 30 seconds of going down a water slide. And then there's the whole, what's in the water aspect of it. But I had my fun as a kid. Well, Cal Expo was leasing their old Raging Waters Park to this developer that was supposed to build a brand new, incredible experience. And what do you know? The developer went broke. They were going to spend $40 million building this water park. How are you going to make your money back on that? And they owed Cal Expo $200,000. And at that point, they said, yeah, we're done on this. And, you know, as much as we hear about all the saber rattling, all of the accusations, and all of the differences in policies between the two parties, especially the leaders of those parties, which right now the leader of the Democrat Party probably is Gavin Newsom, leader of the Republican Party is, of course, President Donald Trump, there is one issue where Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump are on the same page. And I don't know how effective it's going to be, but it is all about going after corporations buying homes in the state of California and, of course, throughout the entire country. But you've got companies like Invitation Homes that own over 10,000 homes in the state of California. And, of course, they've turned them into rentals or they're flipping them. Who knows? But should it be a more even playing field that people that want to become a first-time home buyer don't have to compete with these massive private equity firms? That is an issue where apparently everybody's on the same page. I don't know how big of a deal it will be, but, you know, you got to take these moments when you can, when everyone's like, yeah, that's an interesting idea. Speaking of Gavin Newsom, let's go down to San Diego news. Gavin Newsom went down to the border yesterday to talk tough on fentanyl and really just to put himself on a podium in front of a people in military garb so he can act like he is de facto president. We know what he's doing. And there's been quite an outcry in what's going on right now in the California legislature, because once again, the California legislature is studying an issue they've been talking about for a decade, which is ending the gas tax, but replacing it with a mileage tax, because too many Californians got hybrids or got electric cars, and they're not paying nearly as much gas tax. They're not getting as much revenue from the gas tax as they used to, and it's bothering them. Even though it goes up every single year, they're not getting enough money. So once again, we are studying the issue of should we tax people for mileage, and how exactly do you do that? Are you going to have people self-attest the way they do with AAA? Or are you going to put a device in my car to track exactly how I'm driving and where I'm driving? Of course, you can't go one day in San Diego news without talking about Balboa Park. Today, the update is the paid parking has made it really difficult for art vendors to sell their wares at the market at Balboa Park. Everyone's losing money on this, and obviously the city is as well. Also, and this is true statewide and nationwide, but it was a story from ABC 10 that I picked up. The TSA has said no longer will you be able to fly without your real ID unless you pay us $45 and get that extra screening. But I'll give you some tips later on in the show how you can totally avoid that if you're still freaking out about real ID, something that we've been told we've had to get for over 20 years. And look at this. San Diegans are rallying against the CEO of San Diego Gas and Electric because why? The gas and water bills are too damn high. These monopolies are making all kinds of profits. The CPUC rubber stamps every single rate increase, and these companies are not necessarily focused on safety, like SoCal Edison and PG&E. Now, on to the governor's race. Let me tell you right now, the first televised debate of the season, where 4 months till the June primary, is happening in just a few minutes. It's going to be airing on Fox 11 in Los Angeles and KTVU Fox 2 in the Bay Area. It is a debate. It doesn't have a full dance card. Katie Porter's not going to be there, but you're going to have Javier Becerra, Steve Hilton, Tom Steyer, Tony Thurmond, Antonio Villaraigosa, Betty Yee, who's still in this for some reason, and late entry, and this is what makes this debate interesting, Matt Mahan, who just announced he's running for governor. He's going to be on that debate stage. That debate is going to be co-moderated by a few anchors from KTVU, as well as Marla Tejas, our friend from Fox 11. So, hey, you want to watch that live? You can go do that. It starts at 5:30. Or do what I'm doing. Watch it on YouTube later so you can fast forward through all the parts that you don't care about. But I'm sure there will be some sound that is interesting on that, as every single one of these candidates is looking for a moment to break out because most Californians don't know who these people are. Speaking of the governor's race, If you go to my Substack, randywangradio.substack.com, you scroll down to the governor's race, you'll see the video that we talked about endlessly on the John Phillips Show today. Katie Porter live streaming in the kitchen, whining about Tom Steyer's money. That and a crime blotter, and that's what we've got going on in the news in California today. You can check out all of these stories, links to every single one, by subscribing to my Substack, randywangradio.substack.com. And that's the California Report. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Is there going to be another strike at LAUSD? UTLA has announced that they have authorized a strike. We're going to find out why, and we'll take your phone calls. 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. The News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you check out the California Report, my new Substack, randywangradio.substack.com, for all the stories we talk about and more. And I want to invite you to our big live event. We're going back to Gladstone's in Long Beach this Friday from noon to 3. Come see a live broadcast of the John Phillips Show at Gladstone's in Long Beach. There's going to be great food, good vibes, wonderful drinks. I won't be partaking, but you should have the drinks. They're great. And a fun afternoon by the water. John Sangmeister is going to take care of you. I love Gladstone's in Long Beach. We'll have special guests like Susan Shelley from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. She'll tell you about your taxpayer rights and protecting Prop 13. As we have been saying, the courts have made it easier to raise your taxes. We need you to come by and sign that petition to save Prop 13, which you can do right now at home, saveprop13.com. That's saveprop13.com. Come hang out with us, grab a bite, and be part of the broadcast. The John Phillips Show live at Gladstone's in Long Beach this Friday from noon to 3. Before we get to the LAUSD strike story, let's take a call. Let's go to Mark in San Diego. Mark, hello.
Hey, Randy, I would say let them go on strike forever. Just, we're done. They were on strike for 2 years and we paid them, and they're worthless. I'm not just saying the teachers union. I'm saying 75% of the teachers that I sat and listened to my kid try to learn from remotely for 3 years, and I had to teach him. So I've got a teenager. You know, it's all personal, and I'm done with public schools. If they're not going to compete, that's it. I tried to get my kid into a bilingual school or some other school that was a choice school. They're all full. I would say let the public schools go bankrupt and let the choice schools take them over and do a good business. Give the parents the choice. Give the money back to the parents. I've got another toddler and a preschooler that are about to go into kindergarten, and I am fed up with the public school system.
And I totally understand why. And you think about how much money we pay for this system and how much more money we seem to pay every single year. We're not getting great results for it. Nobody knows where that money's going, and the teachers are always saying that they're broke.
Well, it's the unions. I mean, my dad was a teacher for 40 years. We were broke. Fine. What they had was a levy. He got fired every 3 or 4 years, lost his job until they got more funding, and they hired him somewhere else because he was a good teacher. I used to grade papers for him. So if they're telling me this isn't good, no. Fire the administration. All the money, all the cream is being just taken off the top. The good teachers aren't – I'm sorry for the little one. But the good teachers aren't getting the money.
That's definitely what the case is, because we see all this funding going in, but we don't see where it ends up in the classroom. There is definitely a grift going on in Sacramento, all of these consultants, all of these administrators. And if it was just as simple as fund the classroom and what's going on in the classroom, we might be saving a whole lot of money. Mark, thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it. Let's find out why UTLA says that they are going on strike. They only say they have to do this if they don't get a negotiation, but remember who their chief negotiator is. Cecily Myart Cruz knows how to get her way. She was asking for a 20% raise in 2022, ended up getting a 22% raise after a 3-day strike in solidarity with the SEIU Local 99.
Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
And by the way, I'm not knocking her. That's what unions are supposed to do. They're supposed to get more money for their people, so that means that they can get more union dues. But of course, when it's a public employee union, they can take all those dues and they can specifically use them to elect people that will then give them better contracts, even if they don't make any sense. Let's go to Fox 11 for the potential LAUSD strike.
A possible teachers' work stoppage is one step closer as teacher union members vote to authorize a strike. So what's at the center of the standoff and how could it impact your child's classroom? Fox 11's Rachel Aragon live in downtown LA with the update. Rachel?
The teachers I spoke to earlier today, Christine, say their previous contract had ended June of last year. But they also stressed to me the goal is not to go on strike. They say they want to come to some kind of agreement with the district to avoid a walkout.
The threat of a strike should be plenty.
We're saying invest in our schools, invest in our members, and invest in our students.
Now, if that's the only demands, that's pretty light. You remember back in the COVID days, one of the demands that LAUSD made, that UTLA made of LAUSD, was they weren't going to go back into the schools unless LAUSD defunded the LAUSD police. And that was two things. One, that was the hot political thing at the time, but also that's more money that could go to UTLA.
Get that money.
United Teacher Los Angeles putting the second largest school district in the country on notice. The union voting in favor to authorize a strike if a deal isn't reached over benefits, teacher pay, and funding student resources.
94% of the members are ready to walk out.
I mean, if every 3 years we have this exact same conversation where the kids aren't seeing any of the money, the teachers aren't getting any of the money, where is all this money going?
94% of the members.
If the teachers cannot afford to live in the city of Los Angeles, what do we do about that?
94% of the members are ready to walk out to demand what we need for our schools.
High school English teacher Gina Gray says some teachers are working a second job to afford living and working in Los Angeles.
We can't maintain in this profession if you can't afford to live and work in the city where you're serving your students in your community.
Gray says current contract negotiations are not just about fighting for higher pay, but fighting for more funding for their students. She points to a recent experience.
But what does that mean? Because we just announced that we're spending even more money per pupil. The state has a law, Prop 98, so if the state brings in more money through capital gains, which it did, it has to spend more of that money on the schools. But like with so many other programs, where is the money going?
She points to a recent experience at the high school she works at.
You know, it's flu season. There's runny noses, there's everything at high school. And I went downstairs to get some Kleenex. And they were like, oh, we don't have any Kleenex at the school.
Gross. That means they're wiping that snot all over the place. But again, if the school doesn't have budget for Kleenex, where's the money going?
And we don't have any money to order anymore.
The district says that they presented a proposal with updated wage increases to the union last week. In a statement following the vote to authorize a strike, the district said in part they're currently faced with financial challenges driven by things like declining enrollment, the expiration of federal relief funds, and rising operational costs.
Yeah, that's two of the things right there. One, we're seeing declining enrollment in every major school district, not as pronounced in LAUSD, but when your money is directly tied to how many students you're serving and the students you're serving goes down, we seem to never even think about, well, wouldn't that mean that we need less workforce or we need less schools? I know those are painful conversations, but I don't see those trend lines changing anytime soon. I mean, I'm in the generation where there are plenty of people who even the thought of having kids is like, no, not in California. Can't afford that.
Driven by things like declining enrollment, the expiration of federal relief funds, and rising operational costs.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that we got this is true with the transit agencies. It's true with the schools and so many other things. One of the first things Biden did when he got into office in 2021 was the American Rescue Plan, which was a bailout to all different levels of government, local government, state governments, school districts, transit agencies. And what happened? They all ballooned their budgets, expecting the gravy train to keep on coming.
It's about the priorities, and that is where the members stand. The money is there.
Gray says the goal is not to strike, but to find common ground.
We know that that is the last resort, and we're still trying to work to avoid that.
Now, why this is all so important, 94%, by the way, of 37,000 is around 34,000 or so people that could potentially walk out and strike. Again, that's not the goal. We don't know that's going to happen yet, but that's how many people could walk out, impacting over 500,000 students in the district. So plenty to look forward to and watch and wait and see what happens between these two parties. For Live Tonight, I'm Rachel Aragon. I'll send it back to you.
There you go. It's not for certain that they are going to strike because usually Carvalho caves, even if they don't have the money. And a lot of this is, all these school districts have these rainy day funds of this one-time money. And we would like you to commit that one-time money to ongoing problems like salaries, like wage increases. And here's the thing. If the school district runs out of money, ask the state for more money. Ask the taxpayers for more money. That's what the conversation is every 3 years, whether or not the results are good or enrollment is going up or down. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. One of the difficulties that teachers have in the modern age is getting kids to pay attention, and that's because everyone's glued to their cell phones. Well, Long Beach Unified has rolled out their cell phone ban, and so far it looks like it's a success. For more, here's NBC LA.
All right, a new cell phone crackdown at Long Beach Unified. District leaders say it's about cutting distractions, improving focus, and protecting the mental health of students. NBC4's McCullum did a live for us in Long Beach. And Mac, you're being told by some teachers that they're already noticing a difference, huh?
Yeah, that was a teacher over at Milliken High School. They actually had a soft launch of the new policy last semester, and that teacher says that the change in students, like night and day.
Phone and backpack.
This is now daily routine for AP English literature teacher Lee Underwood.
Phone and backpack.
Each morning, he makes sure students store their phones before class even begins, as classical music plays in the background. Underwood started enforcing this policy actually last semester, even before the district-wide rollout, and he's seen results.
I've seen a difference this year. The level of writing has improved. The level of thinking has improved. The level in their willingness to take risks in writing.
They're actually able to pay attention because they're not doom scrolling in the middle of class. I think we all could use some no phone time.
It has improved.
The purpose of the policy is exactly what it's entitled, to really reclaim students' attention in the classroom and limit the distractions that they have while learning.
The policy adopted last September now applies to all grade levels. Elementary students cannot have phones whatsoever during the school day.
Do elementary students have phones? At what age are we starting this?
Middle schoolers must keep their devices in their backpacks, and in high school, students can use phones during non-instructional time, like during lunch or passing periods. Alexander says districts across the state that have adopted similar rules early are already seeing results.
They've had some pretty staggering results as far as truly reclaiming student attention.
It's better, with no phones because the kids are more focused.
Many parents like Carolina Torres support the change, but not parents like Jesse Aldava and his high schooler.
I think that kids should be able to have the phones.
I think that.
And why? What's the point of that? Oh, so you could text them constantly because you're a helicopter parent? I'm just assuming.
I think that it makes things a little bit more constricting on my part because sometimes I use it for Wi-Fi for getting my school done. Sometimes I'll hotspot my computer.
Sure. That's what you're using it for, not TikTok.
The district says exceptions can be made on a case-by-case basis, especially for emergencies or academic needs. And for teachers like Underwood, the policy for him is a slam dunk.
As far as what I'm seeing in their thinking, and their focus has been, night and day.
Love to see it. Love to see that this policy that seems pretty common sense is actually getting rolled out and we're seeing some results. Now, I'm sure there's concerns about what do you do when there's an emergency, but for right now, having the kids pay attention in class is a positive step. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. You know that I'm a big traveler, and it's sometimes all I can think about. It is the exciting thing that I look forward to is where's my next trip, whether it's to Santa Fe or around the world. So every once in a while, I'd like to give out some tips of just some things to think about to make your traveling life easier. And let's start off with a huge one, because it's all over the news this week that, hey, the TSA is now enforcing real ID. They are charging you $45 if you go to the airport and you don't have real ID. And if you think going to the DMV is too much of a pain in the ass, I finally did it. I got my real ID, but it was a nightmare. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You need to get Global Entry. Global Entry is a program through the federal government. You go through a background check. You have one in-person meeting at a federal building or at an airport on your first trip out, and you have it for 5 years. 5 years of automatic TSA pre-check. You use that card when you go in and out of the airport, and it costs about $100, except it doesn't. Because here's the tip. If you have a travel card, whether it's an American Express card or a Capital One card or the Chase Sapphire card, I think either the preferred or the reserve. I had the reserve. Did you know that your card benefits, you might have one in your wallet right now that pays for this? So if you pay for Global Entry, you get an automatic credit for whatever it costs, $100, $120. Well, I did this when I renewed. I renewed on my Chase card and it immediately was free. So you need to find out. If you have a bunch of credit cards, find out what your benefits are, because there's money sitting on the table. And once you have Global Entry, it is great. You know, my first big international trip was this year. And when we flew back in from Madrid to Dallas, I was like, oh boy, getting back in the country is going to be a nightmare. Not with Global Entry. No, 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 no. They literally were like, hey, here you go. You're back in the country, because you're already a verified, trusted traveler. So it's worked out great for me. I've had it for 5 years. And like I said, you probably already have a credit card that makes it free. So go for it. Get TSA pre-check for 5 years. It's going to make your life a heck of a lot easier. Thank you all so much for listening to the News Blitz. Make sure you check out that Substack, randywangradio.substack.com. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone.